Once upon a time, a proud king lived in a grand palace. He had a beautiful daughter whom he cherished more than anything in the world. As the princess grew, she became known not just for her beauty but for her sharp mind and kind heart. When she reached a marriageable age, the king decided that only the most worthy man in the kingdom could marry her. He wanted a son-in-law who was not just wealthy or powerful but truly exceptional. So he devised a unique and challenging test. The king announced a grand competition open to all eligible young men. The challenge was simple in its instruction but incredibly difficult in its execution. He placed a magnificent, jewel-encrusted sword in the center of a large, circular arena. The task was to draw the sword from its heavy stone scabbard. However, there was a catch. Surrounding the sword was a deep, wide moat filled with water, and patrolling this moat were several large, hungry crocodiles. Beyond the moat was a high, smooth wall that seemed impossible to climb. The king declared, "The man who can successfully draw this sword will win my daughter's hand in marriage and half of my kingdom." News of the challenge spread like wildfire. Princes, knights, and wealthy merchants from all over the land and even from neighboring kingdoms flocked to the palace. They were all captivated by the thought of marrying the beautiful princess and inheriting immense wealth. The arena was filled with spectators, all eager to see who would conquer the king's impossible test. The first contestant was a handsome prince from a faraway land. He was famous for his strength. He confidently approached the moat, looked at the crocodiles, and decided his best chance was to swim across as fast as he could. He took a running start and leaped into the water. The crowd gasped as the crocodiles immediately swarmed towards him. He fought bravely, but he was no match for the powerful creatures. He barely managed to escape with his life, wounded and defeated. Next came a wealthy merchant's son, known for his cleverness. He thought he could outsmart the challenge. He brought a long, sturdy plank of wood, hoping to create a bridge across the moat. He carefully tried to place it over the water, but the crocodiles were too clever. One of them lunged out of the water, grabbed the end of the plank, and dragged it in. The merchant's son was startled and fell backward, his plan completely foiled. Day after day, more men tried and failed. Some tried to use ropes and grappling hooks to get over the wall, but the smooth surface offered no grip. Others tried to distract the crocodiles with food, but the beasts were only interested in what was in the moat. The sword remained untouched, gleaming in the center of the arena, a symbol of an unattainable prize. The king began to worry that no one would ever succeed. The princess watched from her balcony, her heart growing heavier with each failure. She didn't want a husband who was just strong or rich. She wanted someone with true courage and a different way of thinking. After many days, when most had given up hope, a young man arrived at the palace. He wasn't a prince or a nobleman. He was a simple farmer, dressed in plain clothes. He had no entourage, no fancy equipment, just a determined look in his eyes. The crowd whispered among themselves, wondering what a poor farmer could possibly do when so many powerful men had failed. He walked to the edge of the moat and studied the situation carefully. He looked at the crocodiles, the high wall, and the sword in the center. He didn't seem intimidated. He stood there for a long time, just thinking. The crowd grew impatient. "Is he just going to stand there?" someone shouted.
"He's wasting our time," yelled another.
But the young farmer ignored them. He was not looking at the obstacles. He was looking for a solution that no one else had seen. The king and the princess watched him with great interest. There was something different about his calm demeanor. Finally, the young man turned to the king. In a clear, steady voice that carried across the entire arena, he said, "Your Majesty, I accept your challenge. But first, I have a request." The king, intrigued, leaned forward and said, "What is your request, young man?" The farmer pointed towards the moat and said, "Before I attempt to retrieve the sword, I ask that you command your guards to drain all the water from this moat." A stunned silence fell over the crowd. Then a wave of laughter erupted. They thought he was a fool.
"He's trying to change the rules," someone sneered. "That's cheating."
Another one cried out. The king's advisors murmured among themselves, shaking their heads, but the king did not laugh. He looked at the young farmer, then at the impossible moat, and a slow smile spread across his face. He saw something in the farmer's request that no one else did, not cowardice, but intelligence. The farmer wasn't avoiding the challenge. He was solving the problem at its root. The king stood up and raised his hand for silence. The crowd quieted down, eager to hear his response. "This young man," the king announced, "has shown more wisdom than all the others combined." They all focused on fighting the obstacles. He focused on removing them. He understands that true strength is not always about physical power, but about the power of the mind to find a better way. The king then turned to his guards and gave the order, "Drain the moat." The guards, though surprised, obeyed. They opened a hidden sluice gate and the water began to pour out of the moat. As the water level dropped, the crocodiles were left stranded and helpless on the muddy bottom. The farmer simply walked across the now empty moat, climbed the short ledge where the sword rested, and pulled it effortlessly from its stone scabbard. He held it high for everyone to see. A thunderous cheer erupted from the crowd. They were amazed by his simple, yet brilliant solution. The farmer walked back to the king and presented the sword. The king took the sword and then took the young man's hand. He turned to his daughter, who was beaming with admiration and joy. The king proudly announced, "This is the man I have been searching for. A man who uses his mind to overcome any challenge. He has won my daughter's hand and half of my kingdom." The farmer and the princess were married in a grand ceremony, and he became known throughout the land as the wise prince. He ruled alongside the king with fairness and intelligence, always finding clever solutions to the kingdom's problems. And his story was told for generations, a reminder that the greatest obstacle is often not the problem itself, but the way we choose to look at it. Sometimes the most direct path isn't the best one. The real victory lies in finding the courage to think differently. Thank you for watching. We hope this story inspires you. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel for more easy English learning stories. See you in the next video.